So this is a Front Porch podcast, and I'm Jessica Alarcon. I'm here with Joany Titherington, a longtime Oak Park resident and manager of the Oak Park Farmers Market. So thank you so much for coming and agreeing to do this. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for taking the opportunity to invite me to the table.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. So you have lived in Sacramento and in Oak Park in particular for a very long time. You've seen the neighborhood change a lot. We talked a little bit about that. So what do you think? Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to grow up here and how it's changed?
Well, I came to Oak Park probably at 12 years old because this was the neighborhood that my mom grew up in. She kind of had this idealized life that she had here. It wasn't quite the same for me in Oak Park. When we moved back, there was crime and there was violence that I had actually witnessed, but it's seen such a transition over the last 10 years. When I graduated, a little bit before I graduated from college, I actually moved back to Oak Park and purchased a home. And from that time, there was crime. I think we talked about, there was bullet holes, and I kept one in my dining room wall just to remember not to become complacent and continuously work towards improving the neighborhood and the quality of life for the folks that live here. But there's been a shift too where folks from Oak Park that's lived here a long time no longer can afford to live here. So that's a challenge as well. But we'll never be a continuous neighborhood that only has a certain type of people here. We used to be the most diversely integrated neighborhood in the nation. And what that means is, like New York, there are probably more languages spoken in New York City proper than there is here in Sacramento. But what I mean by diversely integrated, that means not just ethnicity, that means economic and socioeconomic stratas. So there's just a huge variety of people here. And that's the way it's been for a very, very long time. And we enjoy this. And earlier you asked, well, I want to know about what the good things are. That's what the good things are. And those are the things that we need to celebrate when we break bread with one another at Fix-Ins or the brewery or Flowers Fish or any of the other eateries that are here. We should be celebrating each other here and know that we care, and we're going to fight for all of the residents here, including the folks that were displaced and now are homeless here in our community.
So one of the things I really like about the diversity here, I lived in Long Beach for 6 or 7 years, and which is also, on the list of the most diverse cities. But Long Beach and Southern California in general, yes, it's extremely diverse. There are people from all over the world there in large number, but everybody has their own little pocket. And it's one of the things that my husband and I love about Oak Park is that, it's diverse in that it's integrated, and there are all kinds of people, even in a few blocks of where we live. My back neighbors are Hmong, and we try to communicate. They're very, very old. The elderly gentleman, communicates over the fence, and we hand fruit over back and forth and whatever. And, all different nationalities, within a couple blocks, all living together and interacting and enjoying each other's company.
That is the beautiful thing about Oak Park, and that's why when people think of Oak Park, they think small town opposed to large neighborhood, is the diversity that you find there and the celebratory things, big and small, passing fruit across, one's, fence. That's just the beginning. I remember early on when we were trying to bring people out of their houses and actively participate in activities that were happening in Oak Park, we did it with food. And I can remember National Night Out. Almost every year for, 10, 15 years, I had a National Night Out on my block.
We did it in
And
front of my house one year, and my kids were thrilled.
yes, and it was awesome because neighbors that not normally would get out of their house actually came out. The great barrier breaker that I've ever found is food. It's food, because
Yes.
who can argue about eating? Food is good. You get to,
Exactly.
and there's lots of varieties, and you get to learn things about people when they do bring a side dish to a block party, a community block party. You get to learn about their ethnicity, maybe. You get to learn about the history. This is my mom's recipe that came from my grandmother and came from my grandmother's grandmother. You get to learn another person's history, and how intimate is that? It's extremely intimate, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to share with folks who you are and where you came from, so we have a little more understanding about one another. And that is one of the things that I've absolutely been joyful to be a part of, and being a part of the neighborhood association, and being able to build on all of that, to kind of create an atmosphere of love, caring, and intimacy in small and big ways. What better community is that?
No, that's right. I think that's fantastic. When we moved in for a little bit, we were doing little barbecues in our front yard. And that's how we got to know most of our neighbors was, okay, yeah, we'll come, we'll have a hamburger or a hot dog and hang out and get to know the neighbors. I think when we did the podcast with Mark, I talked about it a little bit, and I keep thinking, I need to talk to Izzy and see what we can get started back up that way. We have a lot of new neighbors.
Well, we should do a national night out party. It's free to block off the street. So I'm a great planner, and I enjoy a great party. So I think that's so awesome to be able to do that. And I think that we've been able to build on that. And I think that's that cool, hip thing. Kindness, neighborliness is that cool hip thing that people are looking for, that feeling of belonging. And I think that's why our neighborhood has become so popular, and it's being coveted by those that have lived here a very, very long way, that feel like they've put the work in for someone else to come in and kind of hold that space opposed to them holding it. But I think there's a middle space for us all to be. And I think it comes from a loving place, an understanding place. So those that are moving in to understand a little bit more about those that have lived their whole lives here, and those learn about the new folks and where they're from, and what their history is, and how they're contributing to the community in a positive way.
No, that's exactly right. That is a good opportunity to mix the old and the new and get to know each other and hear, what are your concerns. And, I know we got to know some of our neighbors who aren't around anymore, or they sold or whatever, moved on. Yeah. So speaking of connecting over food, one of the ways that my family's connected a lot with the community is at the farmers market.
Oh, that is my baby.
I know it's your baby. So how did that come to be?
The community wanted it. So NeighborWorks, where we're here doing the interview, one of their programs that they have is building the community up from the community. And they have a leadership institute that we get a scholarship from, funding to send people to, and for NeighborWorks America, we're NeighborWorks Sacramento region. Okay. And I went to this training, this leadership training, and someone dropped a pearl. They dropped this beautiful pearl about community visioning, and said to imagine it, to draw it out, and then to work on what you needed to do to get there. And I said, I got to do this. And so we did a community visioning. I was the president of the neighborhood association, and I walked people, I asked, close your eyes. Walk through Oak Park. Imagine what it looks like, what it smells like, the smell of, whether someone is smoking a cigarette or whatever it is that they're doing, and what is there, and what types of shops and social gathering points. Let's go to the park. what does the playground look like? Is this the playground that you want your kids to go through? And we went so on and so forth, and I asked people to open their eyes now and start describing some of those things. And they did. And I said, okay, it's time for you to close your eyes again, and I want you to imagine what you'd like your community to look like. So we're walking down Broadway. We have a coffee shop. What else do we want in our community? What kinds of restaurants or bookstores or places where people can go and break bread with one another? And I said, well, let's now walk towards where our library used to be. Do we want a new library? Let's cross the street and let's go to the park and let's reimagine what we want our park to look like. And imagine what types of things that you see there. And I didn't even realize how powerful that walk was. It was a pretend walk. And our community then, we had spread out, newsprint on the tables and all sorts of pens to color with. And I said, now let's draw our community. Let's write those cornerstone places that we want to have in the community. And let's build on that and see what other areas that we can build on and what we want. And what are some of the things we can use? Words, we can use, stick figures, however your talents play out, let's do that. And some of the top things that they talked about was the walkability, the park, having our library back, but also having a farmer's market. And so the board met and said, hey, who's going to do the work? I said, that sounds like something fun to do. I'll do some work on this. And so I reached out to another person that runs a lot of farmers markets, and I asked this person to actually run a farmers market. And they said, I don't think so. We tried in 1980 something or other, and it didn't work. And those people don't want healthy food. And I sat there and I thought to myself, I am one of those people, and I do want healthy food. So it kind of lit a fire under my butt, and we talked more with community members. We set up a meeting with NeighborWorks, and this will be my only baseball reference, but I told them, build it and they will come. And we didn't start out with getting a farmer's market. We ended up working with Alchemist, CDC, and we did a farm stand, an urban farm stand. So the person that ran it, Davida Douglas, she actually went to farms, rode her bike, picked up the produce, and would come back and resell it. And we did a whole summer season of that, and people loved the opportunity to pick up fresh fruits and vegetables. On top of it, we partnered with Sierra Curtis Park Neighborhood Association, and a individual in Oak Park actually funded our half of the dollars that it took to run that.
Oh, wow.
And I know Tom Sumner is going to deny this, but he needs to be recognized for all the cool work that he's ever done in Oak Park. And so we went back and surveyed people. We had a huge joint event. It was called the Bicycle Hood Hop. And we went to iconic places in both neighborhoods. And we ended at the park. And we had a huge survey. And folks wanted a closer connection with where their food came from. It gave them that appetite, pun intended, to actually want more fresh fruits and vegetables and connect with farmers and food producers to get their groceries on a regular. And so that wasn't the mission at the time for Alchemist. I went back to this other individual and said, hey, look at what we got here. They want it, and no, can't do it. They don't want it. They say all sorts of things, but this is something that I can't do, but I'll help you and give you everything that you need. And I said, okay, I'll take your advice. You've been running markets for a very long time. And I visited a lot of farmers markets. Soilborn Farms had one in Del Paso Heights, and mostly Hmong vendors. There were cooking demonstrations. But I really had my epiphany when I went to the Davis Farmers Market. It was robust with farmers and makers and food producers and all sorts of wonderful things that you could see that people were personally connected. The one thing that we needed to do is kind of create a community event every single week where there was something to do. So we got a lot of promotion. I went to NeighborWorks and I went back, our community's ready, build it and they were come. And they said, if you do the work and you do all the work and we contract with you, we will do it and help you fund it. Because I didn't have the capacity to do all the grant writing and the grant management. I just wanted to get this farmers market started so our community could, have access
Fruit
to
and vegetables.
healthy local fruits, vegetables, and foods. And they said yes. We didn't have any grant funding at the time. So they were basically paying me for my time.
Okay.
And this took a couple of years to actually get to this point. And they started paying me for my time. And I really was out there and none of the farmers wanted to go to this farmer's market in Oak Park. And, am I going to get shot or robbed?
Oh, no.
So there was that perception that we needed to get through and get over that hurdle. And we did eventually. And in 2010, May of 2010, we actually opened up a farmer's market. We had a lot of promotion prior to it. We had 6 vendors and 2,000 people showed up. And that was just, I thought,
Overwhelming.
wow. Overwhelming, but happy. It was both good and bad because now we had to catch up the number of vendors with the number of people. And it took several years to build that back up to around 1,500 people that come to the market over a 4-hour period at McClatchy Park. So here we are. We double the dollars of folks that use CalFresh. That's the food stamp program. We do farmers market tours now. This year we got funding for farm tours. We do free yoga in the park. We have cooking demonstration. We give kids money to sample food and learn about healthy fruits and vegetables and be able to buy their own. And it's been just a delight. This is my joy. My degree is in criminal justice, so you can
So it
imagine
applies.
that's a bit of a learning curve,
Yes.
that I had to go through. But here we are. We're starting our 11th year.
That's amazing. I was trying to remember how long it's been because I remember taking most of my kids there as babies, and we've been there most weeks
Yeah,
for most of the last 10 years.
it's kind of nice.
It's wonderful. I mean, we appreciate, having a place that in the neighborhood we can buy fruits and vegetables. I do miss the okra vendor. And, it's a good place. We've been able to connect with so many neighbors and meet people and get to know them, and have a tamale or some kombucha or something and, enjoy the morning.
And that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted to kind of take back our park and displace the negative, crime and violence. And that's absolutely changed so much. And it was kind of cool to be just a small cog in that machine.
Oh, I wouldn't say that you were a small cog in making that happen.
Well, there was a lot of other people that had their fingers into this. This city of Sacramento invested about $500,000 into site improvements and new bathrooms that don't look so new anymore, but they're better than what they were. The new park, they were able to leverage what we were doing to actually get a $2 million grant from the state of California to totally make our park a destination for several neighborhoods.
Yes.
And I think that I'm fortunate to be surrounded with people who are smarter than I am to help this stuff happen.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for all of your work in that. And, I don't think you're necessarily a small cog because it sounds like you put a lot of heart and soul into building that.
Thank you.
As a member of the community, I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so we're out of time. And thank you so much for coming in. And like I said, I think we'll need to talk again sometime in the future.
That would be my pleasure.
Thank you.